Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the weekly Tottenham news review. I'm leader Dorset Spur and I'm here to talk about all the stories making the headlines over the last 7 days and give you my perspective on those. I invite you to let me know in the comment section what you think, whether you think I'm right in what I'm saying or whether you think I've got it totally wrong. All views are welcome. It's all about opinions as ever. So, it's been a busy week, right? There's a lot happened, but at the same time, it feels like there's a lot that hasn't happened at the same time. But listen, let's kick it off. Let's talk about the defeat against Bayern Munich last night, because that's probably top of our list of different things that have happened this week. Yeah, very, very disappointing result. Disappointing display in a lot of ways. Can I say that I was really, really surprised at it? Probably not. Probably not. I thought this was going to be our biggest challenge. Bayern Munich are, whether you like it or not, one of the biggest teams in the world. You know, they've won the Champions League. I mean, they've won everything. And they've got some fantastic footballers. Started off very strong in terms of their team that they put out. And so did we, probably as strong as we could. I don't think there was probably anyone out there that would be able to say, yeah, well, there was better options on the bench than we had on the pitch to a certain extent. It's interesting again, isn't it, that we are still having to put two goalkeepers on the bench. And I know it's a pre-season friendly, but it just goes to show how thin this squad is. And everyone's talking about having so many players and having to get rid of so many and this, that and the other. But at the same time as that, this squad is paper thin of quality, and one that we'll probably get into and talk about further on in this video. So, yeah, first goal, Harry Kane, as always, was always going to score. Lovely ball over, brilliantly taken and swept into the bottom right hand corner of Vicario's goal. Kane was offside. He was offside. Doesn't change the fact that it was a quality finish from him. And I just think, you know, linesmen are just too busy worrying about VAR that wasn't in place, and they've basically decided they're not going to even bother looking at offsides these days. Straight after that, we had the Polina penalty decision. Again, I personally didn't think it was a penalty. I felt that Polina had pulled out or tried to pull out of that, and the Bayern player made the most of it, fooled them. Again, if there was VAR on that, I think they might have had a different view of it. Fortunately, very, very fortunately, because it doesn't happen very often, just perhaps at the most important times. Harry Kane missed a penalty, slipped straight over the bar. And for me, I thought, that's justice. He didn't deserve it because it wasn't a penalty in the first place and his first goal was offside. So I thought, you know. And then I thought, you know, to be fair, I thought in the first half, we did okay. We defended very deep. We worked really hard in our defensive shape, trying to keep them at bay. But it was relentless. And I think when it is relentless like that, you are going to struggle. You are going to struggle to keep that mindset. We had a couple of opportunities in the game. I thought Spence, did okay. I thought he's running, coming from deep was really good. Kudus, again, I thought was probably our standout player. Really strong on the ball, really tricky, really kind of trying to make something happen. Final third still hasn't really hit the ground running, but certainly his build up and his work ethic on that right hand side has been really impressive in comparison to the kind of job that Johnson's done. And this isn't a dig at Johnson, by the way. They're two very, very different players. And to be fair, just to give him a little bit of a shout out, I thought that Johnson on the left-hand side was actually a little bit better. I thought we played a little bit better on the left, kind of cutting in, put a couple of balls in and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I thought in the first half we were doing okay-ish, but we offered nothing up front, nothing at all. And that's the real disappointment thing of it. Now, everybody talks about Thomas Frank being the manager who can adapt in games, can adapt his philosophy and so on. But I just do wonder, and I'll put it out there, right or wrong, how quickly Tottenham fans will be fed up with sitting deep and trying to counter. How more pragmatic. How much we are going to accept that, especially if we don't win. Now, it's okay to be pragmatic, to hit on the counter and all the rest of it if you're winning games. But if you're losing games, and losing games significantly, like we did last night, 4-0, then pragmatic, not entertaining football is not really going to cut it. Like I say, pragmatic, boring football in the Europa League final won us the trophy, we will accept it. And at the same time, playing expansive football, gung-ho football, didn't cut it either. So we've got to find that balance in between. And maybe that's something that will come when you're playing teams, that you're, I don't like the term expecting to win, because I don't think you should really expect to win any game. But if you take some of the games that we're going to play this season that we would expect to win, I would like to make sure that we put some entertaining football into it. In terms of the big games, the big difficult games, then of course I expect us to be a little bit more pragmatic, and that was the criticism of Ange. He didn't adapt to that. But we actually offered absolutely nothing in that game. I mean, I said this on Chris's show last night. Generally speaking, in a game, you will see, one outstanding goal, worldy. Last night we saw 3. There's just no way any of those were going to be stopped by the goalkeeper. But you have to question the defensive qualities when players are not going out to meet the ball, not closing down. After the first one happens like that, you think they would switch onto it. But when it happened twice, you think, well, you didn't learn from the first time. They're going to hit from anywhere. They're going to take their chances. They're just going to whack it and take another go. Something we don't tend to do. So yeah, really disappointed with it from that point of view. But again, the whole conversation is about the fact that we had no outlet really, apart from Kudus on the right hand side. Nothing else seemed to be doing anything. Midfield wise, we were kind of caught out. Bologna only played the first 45 minutes anyway, but there is no creativity in that team. So a real worry from that point of view, which kind of brings me on to probably the next element of it, right? Because we have in this week seen Tyrese Hall go to Notts County, Lancashire go to Oxford United, Donnelly go to Stake City, George Abbott go to Wickham. And now these players are only young guys, but they are still a similar age to Bergvall, to Gray, to Sarr even, So it's interesting that these guys are going out on loan. So clearly our coaches and so on do not believe the players that they're bringing through the academy are good enough. They're not good enough to step up. If a lad can walk from, a Swedish team into the Premier League and be considered a first team player, or can come from Leeds and be a first team regular, and yet all of our players that we're bringing through are not good enough. Especially when you consider we don't have a 10. Kulusevski is out, Maddison is out. There's nobody else who plays in that position for us. Morgan Gibbs-White didn't want to come. So it leaves us really, really short. And then you're letting, Donnelly, for instance, or Abbott go. And I think both of those are midfield players with ability. If they're not good enough, they're not good enough. I get it. But my point is we are starting to clear some players out. But that's leaving us very, very short. And that's the big concern for all of us. The only player that's come in, obviously, is Palhinha. Number 6, exactly what we've been asking for. We needed someone to protect that back four in those sort of pragmatic games and so on. But him and Kudus is just not enough. And this kind of brings me into the interview that Daniel Levy did. Now, I did my own personal video on it on my channel. If you want to check that out, please do. But the gist of some of this was he's talking about backing the manager within our best abilities. We're not going to put the club at risk, and other teams cannot carry on in the way they are without consequences. And I get all of that. But then when you've seen Manchester United, who lost against us, spending the money they're spending after they're cutting the tea lady, and you've got Chelsea buying every player under the sun, you've got Arsenal strengthening, you've got Man City strengthening after one season and not winning anything, you've got Liverpool won the league spending, best part of £200 million or plus. You're looking at all of that and you're going, wow, we will never compete at that level. You're never going to get... There's no point talking about top 4, winning the Champions League, winning the Premier League, when you've got those teams doing that sort of business and putting themselves right in there with a far better chance than we've got with 2 individual players coming in. So it's a real worry. And I've heard today that Fabrizio Romano said, Tottenham are making some calls. That worries me massively. I work for a huge company, and we are always planning for the next big thing that's going to happen. Regardless of what it is, you're planning for that. You're looking at that, and it's the same thing even with recruitment. I work with a decent sized team. And when someone is looking to move on and you're looking at their development and so on, if you know that person needs something and they need to move on, you're already planning who's going to take that over, who's going to work on that element of it, who's the next person to step into that role. And I've done that all my whole career, always managing teams, of developing people, seeing them promoted and looking for the next person to come beyond them. Or if they've moved into another team or gone to a different site, you always look... And I can't believe that in a business the size of Tottenham Hotspur does not have a clear recruitment plan of who they want, where they want them, who's the next best thing that's coming our way, a clear direction. We can all see it. As Tottenham fans, we can all see it. And I know that we are a fickle bunch, but you can all see we needed a number 10 before Maddison was injured. That's why we went for Morgan Gibbs-White. Where's the next option of that coming from? We've all seen that Udogie has been injured, and he was injured significantly last season. Yes, we've got Spence, but Spence shouldn't be your backup left back when he's your backup right back. And then that leaves us with Ben Davies. And with all due respect to Ben Davies, the guy's getting on. This is his, what's it now? Probably 11th or 12th season. Mr. Dependable, yeah. But he's not your long-term backup. He's not going to win you the Champions League or the Premier League, with all due respect to him. And it just massively concerns me. And now you've lost Son out of the team, and whilst they're saying Frank's been really impressed with Odebear, if he was so impressed with him, why didn't he start him last night? Because he didn't start him, he started Johnson. So he can't be that impressed with him, sure, And then you've got Matisse Tell, who... nobody is really yet convinced on, which I think is a shame, because when this transfer came about, everyone was talking about he potentially could go for Man United. And if he can go for Man United, and it was like, oh, don't let him go to Man United, Ange needs to get involved, we need to sign him. And then when it was a loan deal, it was a disaster, it's only a loan deal with no option to buy. And then there was all the questions of Ange was like, no, he's here for the longer term. And everyone was like, great, we've got this guy, he's turned down United, all this sort of business. And now we're cutting him adrift already, that he's not good enough and he's never going to be good enough for Tottenham. I don't know. He's like 19 or something. We're just loaning out all these other players that are similar age for their development, and yet we're talking about Tell being no good whatsoever. So I don't know. At the moment, am I convinced? No. But do I want to give him time? Yes. I don't think he's had a lot of game time. I don't think he's had a chance to really settle. I think he has some ability. It's just a case of being able to showcase that. But clearly, when you're losing the quality of someone like Son, and even in his poorest season, he's still been better than some of our other players, then that's a worry, right? So we know we need to cover Son. So already we've got a central midfielder, attacking midfielder we're missing. We've already got a left wing quality issue. We've got a left back quality issue. And that's not to say anything about the fact that Dom Solanke has been injured about 3 times since he come to Tottenham now, bearing in mind he had no injuries at Bournemouth. He's been injured with us 3 times, and our backup is Richarlison, who's been injured about 300 times and seemingly cannot get anywhere near scoring goals. I mean, even last night, he had a great opportunity for a diving header, totally miscued it, sent it massively wide. He took one wild shot that would have been a great goal had he got it sort of, to the left-hand side maybe of the keeper, but hit it straight at the keeper. And that was probably his only involvement in it. He runs around a lot, he works hard, he's a great character, he's a great shithouser, but he is not going to win you the Champions League. He's not going to do enough. And yet we are sending Lancashire out on loan. To be honest with you, I would almost prefer to send Richarlison out on loan and keep Lancashire, because I think he's a young guy who's hungry, who wants to score, and he may well have a better opportunity. We'll just have to see. So this is it's a real worrying situation at this moment in time, where we are kind of loaning out players and thinning out the squad, a depleted squad already, and seemingly not doing any business. 6 days or so is away from the Super Cup, an opportunity to win silverware before the season even starts, against PSG, and which is going to be a really, really difficult game. Sure, he'll go pragmatic again, but unless anybody else comes in the meantime, I can only see us putting out pretty much the same team that we put out against Bayern Munich. And to be honest with you, 4-0 doesn't flatter them. It could have been an awful, awful lot more than that. So I'm really, really concerned about it. I'm not worried about the Premier League. I'm sure that we'll get more consistency in the Premier League. There are a lot of teams to play. There are a lot of matches to be played across the season. I think, we will definitely give ourselves a decent shout. I still don't see us with this squad being any better than kind of mid-table, if I'm honest. I think mid-table is realistic. Europe at a stretch, if we can get a really good run going. But I think with the pressures of the Champions League, that's going to make it really, really difficult. We saw how we struggled last season with the Europa League and then playing in the Premier League. So Champions League will be even harder. And that's the big concern is, we get into the Champions League and get absolutely smashed every time. That's going to be a real worry. That's not going to help confidence. It's not going to help the fans, belief in the change and all the rest of it. And as I said in my own videos previously, my biggest concern about moving on Ange wasn't about Ange, it was about what he represented, which was an opportunity to build on what we'd already started, winning a trophy. We now needed big investment to take us to that next level when he delivered Champions League football to encourage that opportunity. And what they've done basically is killed that hope and killed that expectation. We are now back, rather than expecting to win a FA Cup next season and have a good run in maybe, in the Premier League, get up the league, get back into Europe, maybe get out of the group stages of the Champions League, to now just thinking to yourself, if we avoid relegation and come mid-table, that'll be a result if we don't get thrashed every week in the Champions League. And that's a sad state of affairs to be in. And I know this is really early doors. I know it's really, really early doors, but we were a fair way off the top four in terms of squad depth, squad quality and so on. Those teams have gone out and done big business, and that leaves us even further adrift. So we've got even further to go now than we had last season. And last season we ended up 17th. So we've got a million miles to go to try to catch up with them. And that's the disappointing thing, and that's the worry. But yeah, so overall, it's not been a great week from that point of view. Lost to Bayern Munich. Maddison's ACL, that's going to see him out for the whole season, pretty much. And then to top the iceberg, we also have the emotional farewells of Heung-Min, who welled us all up again with his tears in his goodbye interview, but showed what a real human that guy is. What a lovely man, a legend. If not as a player, as a person, for sure. Sad to see him go. The right decision, for sure. Sad all the more. Players come, players go. Managers come, managers go. Football fans will stay for life. So I'm sure we will get another hero at some point in the future. Whether it be one of the players that we have now or a player that comes in is yet to be decided. But yeah, I mean, Sonny moving on to LA, good move for him, good move for the club. I think we made a £2 million profit after 10 years, which is amazing as well. So yeah, that kind of tops the iceberg of a week where a lot has happened, but none of it particularly good news. Like I say, the only piece of good news is we did manage to get that elusive 6th position covered, with Polina coming in on loan, with an option to buy and decent money for him as well. We'll see how he gets on. We'll see how he develops. Remember, he hasn't played regular football for a long time, since April, I think someone had said, I read somewhere. So a bit of time needed for him. But fingers crossed, he'll come good for us and fill that position, give us that stability in the midfield that we've been looking for. But of course, it all now hinges on Daniel Levy and what he is prepared to do. And I know this isn't particularly just Daniel Levy. This is about the recruitment team. This is about Johan Langer. This is about Ventukesham. This is about the board. This is about Frank. What does he want? What is he saying? And it's about availability and so on. But we are leaving it very, very late in the window. And we always say there's plenty of time, and there is still time. The season, it's not over yet. The season hasn't started. We've got time on our side, but it's running out quickly, certainly for the Super Cup. So yeah, a little bit of a disappointing week, but there you go. It is what it is. The life and times of being a Tottenham fan. Once you're up, and then you're down, and then you're up, and then you're down. It's like a real roller coaster. But anyway, if you got this far, thanks very much for watching the video. I really, really appreciate it. Do leave some comments in the comment section below. It's great to see. I only got one comment last week, which was disappointing. So yeah, please do leave your comments, whether you think I'm talking rubbish or not, or what you think. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm and supports the channel. Of course, if you don't subscribe to Chris's channel, please do consider doing that. Doesn't cost you a penny. Not a penny. You can hit a notification bell. It tells you whenever Chris uploads a video. There are plenty of different stuff going on there. Lots of variety of videos going in, and the channel deserves some recognition. But as I say, at the end of it all, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you spending 24, nearly 25 minutes with me, and I'll see you on the next one. And as always, up the Spurs.